And welcome back to Crypto Maniac, where we decode the crypto space one day at a time, every single day. So yesterday was a big day in the crypto world where China came out with some rumors that Bitcoin and some of the Chinese Bitcoin exchanges were going to get shut down or severely limited. So that sent shockwaves through the entire crypto space. And just taking a quick look at the markets here. Right now, there's already been a little bit of recovery just looking at the coin market cap right now. So the entire crypto space has lost about $20 billion already. So we're sitting at roughly 147 billion. So Bitcoin over the last 24-hour period is actually even up just over 1%, Ethereum just under 1%. So everything is trading relatively sideways right now, I think, as we kind of wait to hear from China to see exactly what's going to happen. Of course, we're on the weekend right now, so there's not a lot that we can expect to look forward to until business resumes as usual on Monday, and China can clarify and give us a bit of an update on the news that we got on Friday. So IOTA has actually recovered a little bit, about 3.5% since a security flaw was discovered late last week, so that's good to see. Omisa Go has definitely had a little bit of a bounce from the dip that we had last week on the news that China had banned ICOs. So Omisa Go continues to be a really strong player, and I think there's a super bright future there. Congratulations to those of you who picked up a little bit on the dip there. And of course, that's one of those things, right? As soon as the market dips, some of your favorite currencies go on sale. So with sound technology, that is definitely often a good entry point. So we're looking to buy low and pick up some deals where they are to be found. Otherwise, just scrolling down here, a couple of bigger winners today. ARK at 16.5%. EOS continues to get hammered, is going down. That said, it looks like there could be some bright things on the future, but we haven't actually seen a platform launch yet. So as it goes down, it may or may not be a good play, but we can talk a little bit in future about participating in ICOs, taking some gains where we find them, and then effectively leaving some free coins there to see what happens in the future. There's also been a lot of noise surrounding Civic lately, so that's up 13%. 0x just under 2% gain. So all in all, things aren't looking too bad just yet. But again, we'll have to wait and see exactly what happens on Monday. So that's coin market cap. Now on to these actual rumors about China trying to limit Bitcoin or control Bitcoin a little bit within the country. So it's really interesting to check out some of the news articles out there and to sort of see the spin that they put on things. So there's a lot of speculation in the space that these might be unsubstantiated rumors. That said, it could also be a bit of a precursor to something that is actually coming. So rumors were coming out last week out of China that it was going to be putting a stop to ICOs. The markets responded accordingly, going down, of course. The crypto community did the best to try to talk itself back into reason, saying that it's only a rumor and until something is substantiated, that we shouldn't be panicking. That said, of course, a couple of days later, the news actually came out of China that they were in fact going to crack down on ICOs and trying to regulate the space. It turned out to be a relatively positive action, all things considered, where the idea is that China just wants to regulate and protect the consumer. Of course, it spread a huge ton of FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt, and that's never good for the markets. So right now, it makes us all a little bit leery hearing noise out of China that they're going to be trying to do the same thing or something similar with regard to Bitcoin and the top exchanges that control Bitcoin flow in the country. So the story was that China was supposed to shut down local cryptocurrency exchanges. But this report came out from a publication, Kaishen, and a lot of people were saying that they didn't do anything to actually publish any sources. So a lot of people were saying that this was just fake news and completely unsubstantiated. So the government was not available to comment, but now we've reached the weekend and all we can really do is wait until Monday until we're back in business and we can clear up this whole mess. But interestingly, at the same time, over here on CryptoCoin News, they've published an article that just came out today saying that Bitcoin prices recover from major drop, Chinese exchanges not being banned. So there's a bit of a different spin on an article like this, of course, that's a little bit more positive, saying that after all, according to the largest 3 Chinese Bitcoin exchanges, China-based cryptocurrency trading platforms are not being banned by local financial regulators. So again, we'll just have to see what happens on Monday when we can actually get some verification from the government itself. But that said, the big three exchanges listed in all of these articles have denied receiving any communications from the government, so this has yet to be clarified. So where does that leave the average investor then trying to figure out what Bitcoin is going to do next? Well, it could be, of course, that it is completely unsubstantiated news and that it's just a case of FUD and market manipulation. On the other hand, it could also be that these rumors are based on perhaps a little bit of a nugget of truth and are maybe a bit of foreshadowing as to what's to come, as we saw last week with the whole ICO situation coming out of China. It is, however, interesting to see right now that China's holdings of Bitcoin and therefore overall control have been drastically reduced. I found this article, for example, which talks about how China was once the biggest Bitcoin marketplace, which accounted for nearly 90% of global world trading. But this was followed by a series of crackdowns and regulations, and as that tightened, of course, the Chinese share of Bitcoin trading has slid to less than a third of global trading. So that puts China then in a bit of an interesting situation where it appears as though if China does end up cracking down on Bitcoin and Bitcoin exchanges, their dominance in the Bitcoin marketplace starts to dwindle, that they're kind of shooting themselves in the foot on the heels of other news, which is that countries like Japan and Russia are really starting to ramp up their mining game. So this article was actually from yesterday when the news came out about Bitcoin and China. Suddenly, like Irma, Japan conglomerate launches major Bitcoin mining center. So this talks about GMO Internet Group and 1.4 billion Japanese technology conglomerate, which has officially announced the launch of its Bitcoin mining operation and its plans to compete with existing mining pool operators and companies within the global Bitcoin mining industry. So news then just coming out of today saying that another e-commerce giant, DMM, out of Japan unveils Bitcoin mining plans as well, trying to ramp up and get into the game as well. We heard already last week or the week before that Russia is committed to definitely taking on China in terms of mining. So we'll see where China stands in the end. And I think overall this is going to be a definite good thing for Bitcoin, that it's going to become then a lot less centralized, which is ultimately what Bitcoin is all about. So interestingly, I also found a Wikipedia entry which just got added about 45 minutes ago, which is a list of legality of Bitcoin by country or territory. So this is quite interesting that this has popped up. However, I will say that it could potentially be a little bit misleading. So as we go through the Eurozone and other parts of the world, it looks as though it's trying to say that if there is no policy to Bitcoin, that it is just labeling it completely legal. So for a lot of places where it still might be in a bit of a gray zone, that may not be entirely representative. So for example, the European Union has passed no specific legislation relative to the status of Bitcoin as a currency, and blah, 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 goes on about value-added tax and so on. G7 countries, Nigeria, legal, South Africa, Zimbabwe, Canada. In the United States, the US Treasury classified Bitcoin as a convertible decentralized currency in 2013. The Commodity Futures Trading Commission, or the CFTC, classified Bitcoin as a commodity in September of 2015. Per IRS, Bitcoin is taxed as a property. In September 2016, a federal judge ruled Bitcoins are funds within the plain meaning of that term. That is very ambiguous. I have no idea what that means. Mexico, Bitcoin is legal as of 2017 and is to be regulated by fintech law. So that appears to be going in the right direction. There are specific countries, however, that have outlawed it. We'll see how China goes, but the Central Bank of Bolivia issued a resolution banning Bitcoin in 2014. So that was a while ago. Perhaps countries like this might revisit this in the future now that it's starting to gain traction, but there's definitely no guarantee. In India, on the 28th of December 2013, a statement was made that the Reserve Bank of India has no plans to regulate Bitcoin. So scrolling down to China, there are a few events that are listed here saying that it's okay to trade Bitcoin among individuals, but that the financial services industry, including banks, are not allowed to go anywhere near it. So we'll see what that means for exchanges then going forward. So scrolling down to Japan, there was big noise that was made in the news about Japan and them actually recognizing Bitcoin as legal tender in the country. And on to Korea. There are no laws in South Korea regulating the use of Bitcoin at present, but the president of the Bank of Korea recommended at a press conference that Bitcoin be regulated in the future. In Taiwan, Bitcoin ATMs are banned, but Bitcoins can be purchased at over 6,000 convenience kiosks. And down to the European Union, Germany, as the big economic powerhouse of Europe, the German Finance Ministry announced that Bitcoin is now essentially a unit of account and can be used for the purpose of tax and trading in the country, meaning that purchases made with it must pay VAT as with euro transactions. It is not classified as foreign currency or e-money, which is interesting, but stands as private money, which can be used in multilateral clearing circles, according to the ministry. And of course, there are several countries listed here, but interestingly, in Estonia, the use of Bitcoins is not regulated or otherwise controlled by the government. But it is interesting also to think back to very recently, I think they might even still be in the midst of releasing their own ICO for the country itself as put out by the government. So we are starting to see some acceptance from a lot of governments all over the world, and so it'll be interesting to see what China decides for itself. And again, it just might be shooting itself in the foot if it becomes completely banned as opposed to just properly regulated and allowed to operate as it should. So where does that leave us, and what are we supposed to do now with all of this news? So one thing that you could potentially do, of course, is decide that these rumors are actually based on some kind of a truth, and the hammer will fall this week. China will come out early next week and say that yes, cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin are banned in the country and these cryptocurrency exchanges have to shut down, and the price will tank and you'll be able to buy back your Bitcoin and wait for it to go up again. Yes, you could definitely do that, but I would definitely say that is an aggressive and risky move. Better perhaps is to do what I will probably likely do, which is absolutely nothing. So we've talked a little bit about hodling, which is just going to be holding on for dear life, which I think is a much better strategy, because what happens if next week all of these rumors are actually proven to be false and the price of Bitcoin actually goes up, then you are going to be left behind. I do think that there is a possibility that there might be some more negative news to come, so I fully accept that markets are likely to drop in the near term. But still, trying to short the market in that way would definitely be a very aggressive move. And I am personally going to exercise a bit of patience and play the wait and see game. The problem, of course, that's a bit annoying is that it's going to take down all of our portfolios and every other cryptocurrency with it. And traditionally, a currency like Ethereum gets hit hardest, and that's no good. That said, I have talked in previous videos about how I personally think that Ethereum is a bit on the undervalued side, particularly given that there are a few releases coming up on the horizon that I think will really do a lot to push the price back up again. So in case you haven't heard, Metropolis is coming, of course, expected a little bit later on this month, which is going to be the third of 4 upgrades happening on the network. So as it turns out, this is a big deal and perhaps a little bit bigger than the developers thought that it would be initially. And so it's been split into 2 right now. So Byzantium is going to be coming a little bit later on this month. I think it's scheduled to actually be released on September 18th, but it's only going to be the testnet. So there's going to be a rigorous period of testing first, according to the man himself, Vitalik Buterin. This is likely to take around 3 or 4 weeks or so. I think they want to be actually extra careful about making sure that they put out an upgrade that's going to be absolutely solid with no vulnerabilities in it. And as long as that happens, I think that will really be reflected in the price. So the actual upgrade, I think we can expect to be launched somewhere then early October is what we're looking for. And the second part to the upgrade, which is going to be coming at some indeterminate point in future, is Constantinople, which will be the second half of that upgrade, but we can follow that as that rolls out later on in future. So what are your thoughts in this space? Are you planning on selling right now and then picking up some cheap Bitcoin later on next week to wait for the pop? It'll be really interesting to see. Or are you just prepared to be patient and hodl like I am? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And as always, if you've got suggestions for future topics, I'd love to hear your opinion. So let me know in the comments below as well. Guys, thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.